400 years. That was how long the Alpha King's wolf had refused to choose. 4 centuries of ceremonies. 4 centuries of hopeful noble families. 4 centuries of disappointment. And now, on a night that was supposed to change the future of the kingdom forever, the impossible was about to happen. The great hall of the royal palace blazed with silver fire. Thousands of candles burned along the towering stone walls. Crystal chandeliers reflected moonlight through enormous windows. Every noble family in the kingdom had gathered beneath the vaulted ceiling. Every lord, every lady, every ambitious parent who dreamed of seeing their bloodline connected to the throne. Tonight was the night of choosing. A ceremony so important that children learned about it before they learned history. 4 generations, the kingdom had waited for this moment. Waited for the Alpha King to finally accept a mate. Waited for his wolf to stop rejecting every woman placed before him. Waited for destiny to reveal itself. But destiny had become a joke. At least that was what people whispered when they believed nobody important could hear them. The king's wolf never chose. Never. The oldest records told the same story. Princesses from distant lands had come. Daughters of powerful alphas had come. Women celebrated for beauty, intelligence, strength, and loyalty had stood before the throne. All rejected. Every single one. The wolf always refused. And after 400 years, many had begun believing the beast inside the king simply wasn't capable of accepting a mate. Some called it a curse. Others called it punishment. A few even called it madness. The Alpha King ignored all of them. Because he no longer cared. Not truly. He sat upon the ancient throne at the far end of the hall. Motionless. Silent. Cold. His silver eyes scanned the crowd without interest. He looked like a king carved from stone. Powerful. Untouchable. Emotionless. Time had transformed him into something few could understand. For centuries was a long time to live. Long enough to watch entire families disappear. Long enough to bury friends. Long enough to forget what hope felt like. The people loved him. The kingdom respected him. His enemies feared him. Yet none of those things filled the emptiness inside him. The Alpha King had learned a painful truth centuries ago. Everything ended. Everyone left. The longer he lived, the more loss followed. Eventually he stopped allowing himself to care. It hurt less that way. At least that was what he told himself. The crowd erupted into applause as the master of ceremonies stepped forward. The ceremony was beginning. One by one, noble daughters would approach the throne. One by one, they would stand before the Alpha King. One by one, the wolf would decide. Or refuse. Just as it always had. The first candidate approached. Beautiful. Confident. Carefully prepared for this moment. The hall fell silent. Everyone watched. Everyone waited. The Alpha King barely looked at her. Inside him, the ancient wolf remained completely still. Nothing. No reaction. No interest. The woman was dismissed. Another approached. Again nothing. And another. Nothing. Hours passed. The pattern repeated. Hope rose. Hope died. Again and again. The crowd began whispering. Disappointment spread through the hall. Many had secretly expected a miracle tonight. Instead, they were witnessing the same story they had heard all their lives. The Alpha King's wolf refused everyone. Then something changed. The king felt it instantly. A disturbance. Deep inside him. The wolf stirred. Not with attraction. Not with recognition. Something else. Something strange. Something restless. The king straightened slightly. His eyes narrowed. For the first time that night, genuine emotion appeared on his face. Confusion. The wolf rose inside him. Pacing. Growling. Searching. The reaction was so unexpected that the king nearly lost focus. His wolf hadn't behaved this way in centuries. The beast seemed agitated. Uneasy. Almost angry. A low murmur spread through the hall. Those closest to the throne noticed the change immediately. The king's hands tightened against the armrests. Silver energy flickered around his eyes. The wolf was becoming increasingly restless. The next candidate approached. The reaction grew worse. The beast snarled violently. The king felt the force of it shake through his entire body. The woman froze in fear. The hall fell completely silent. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. The wolf wasn't rejecting her. It wasn't accepting her either. It was reacting to something else. Something unseen. Something distant. Something missing. The Alpha King slowly stood from his throne. Gasps echoed throughout the chamber. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The wolf's fury continued rising. Searching. Demanding. Calling for something the king could not understand. Then suddenly, the massive doors at the end of the hall burst open. A royal historian stumbled inside. Pale. Terrified. Breathless. Ancient scrolls spilled from his arms. The interruption shocked everyone. Breaking protocol during the night of choosing was unthinkable. The guards immediately moved toward him. But the old historian dropped to one knee. "Your Majesty." His voice trembled. "We found something." The king stared at him. The wolf instantly became still. That frightened him more than the growling had. The beast was listening. Waiting. The historian swallowed hard. "We were examining forgotten royal archives beneath the Eastern Library." The room remained silent. No one understood why this mattered. Then the old man lifted a weathered scroll. Its edges looked ancient. Far older than any document normally found within the palace. "We discovered a sealed contract." The king's eyes narrowed. "A contract?" "Yes, Your Majesty." The historian's hands shook. "It bears your seal." The hall erupted with confusion. That was impossible. The king had ruled for centuries. Thousands of documents carried his seal. Why would this matter? Then the historian spoke the next words. Words that changed everything. "The contract is over 400 years old." Silence. Absolute silence. The king's expression darkened. 400 years. Exactly the same amount of time his wolf had refused every mate. The coincidence felt wrong. Dangerously wrong. The historian slowly unrolled the parchment. Ancient symbols covered its surface. Magic shimmered faintly between faded lines of ink. The entire room stared. Nobody understood what they were seeing. Then the old man reached the final section. His face lost all color. The Alpha King's wolf exploded with emotion. Not anger. Not aggression. Recognition. The force of it nearly knocked the king backward. For the first time in 4 centuries, the beast inside him reacted as though something truly mattered. The king's heart slammed against his chest. The wolf wasn't confused. The wolf knew exactly what this document was. And somehow, the king did not. The historian's voice barely rose above a whisper. "This appears to be a mating contract." The room froze. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Nobody believed what they had heard. A mating contract. Signed 4 centuries ago. The king's wolf released a deep, powerful growl. Not hostile. Protective. Possessive. Ancient. The sound echoed through the great hall. Fear spread across every face present. Because they all understood one thing. The wolf had never reacted like this before. Not once. Not in 400 years. The king's pulse accelerated. His gaze locked onto the parchment. A strange feeling settled inside him. A feeling he had not experienced in centuries. Hope. The emotion felt foreign. Dangerous. Almost painful. The historian stared at the final line. His hands trembled violently. The king stepped forward. "What name is written there?" No one breathed. The entire kingdom seemed suspended in a single moment. Waiting. The old man swallowed hard. Then he read the name. A woman's name. Not a princess. Not a noble daughter. Not any candidate standing inside the hall. A name nobody recognized. A name completely absent from royal records. A name that should have meant nothing. Yet the instant it was spoken, the Alpha King's wolf roared. The force shattered glass. Candles flickered. Power exploded through the chamber. The crowd screamed. The beast had chosen. Not tonight. Not this year. Not this century. 400 years ago. And somehow, no one knew why. The king stood frozen. His mind raced. Questions crashed into one another. Who was she? Why had the wolf chosen her? Where was she now? Was she alive? How had such a contract remained hidden for centuries? Most importantly, why had nobody told him? The wolf paced restlessly. Not angry anymore. Focused. Determined. Certain. The certainty frightened the king. Because the beast had never been certain about anything before. 400 years of rejection. 400 years of silence. 400 years of nothing. And now suddenly, everything. The nobles erupted into chaos. Voices filled the hall. Accusations. Questions. Fear. Political alliances shattered within seconds. Families who had spent decades preparing daughters for this moment watched their dreams collapse before their eyes. The king's future had already been decided. Long before any of them were born. Long before any of them understood the game they were playing. The Alpha King barely heard them. His attention remained fixed on the contract. Something about it felt familiar. Not in memory. In instinct. As though a forgotten part of him recognized something his conscious mind could not. The wolf continued staring toward the parchment. Waiting. Watching. Almost yearning. The feeling disturbed him. Because it reminded him of something he had spent centuries avoiding. Connection. For hundreds of years, he had convinced himself that fate was a lie. That destiny was a story told to comfort ordinary people. That duty mattered more than emotion. Now fate was standing directly in front of him. Written across an ancient contract. Signed with his own seal. And he had absolutely no idea how. The ceremony ended in complete chaos. The nobles were dismissed. The candidates left in shock. The palace erupted with rumors before midnight. But the Alpha King remained alone inside the throne room. The ancient contract rested before him. Moonlight spilled across faded ink. The mysterious woman's name remained visible. Waiting. Silent. Powerful. The wolf sat quietly inside him. No longer restless. No longer angry. Patient. As though it had spent 4 centuries waiting for this exact moment. And now that the truth had finally surfaced, it wasn't willing to wait any longer. The king stared at the contract. For the first time in centuries, uncertainty entered his heart. Because somewhere beyond the palace walls, beyond the mountains, beyond the forests, beyond everything he knew, there was a woman connected to him by a choice he never remembered making. A woman hidden by history itself. And somehow, she had just become the most important person in the kingdom. The Alpha King slowly closed his eyes. The questions refused to stop. Who was she? Why had fate hidden her? And why did his wolf sound so certain that she was still alive? Outside, a storm began gathering across the dark horizon. Thunder rolled through distant skies. The kingdom slept unaware that everything was about to change. And far away, in a place untouched by royal politics and ancient power, a young woman suddenly woke from a strange dream she could not remember. A dream filled with silver eyes, ancient wolves, and a voice calling her name from across 400 years. The kingdom woke to chaos. Before sunrise, rumors had already escaped the palace walls. Before breakfast, every noble house knew about the contract. Before noon, every marketplace in the kingdom was whispering the same question. Who was the woman? Nobody knew. Not the nobles. Not the royal historians. Not even the Alpha King himself. Yet somehow, a single forgotten name had shaken a 400-year-old kingdom more than any war ever had. Inside the royal palace, tension spread like wildfire. Servants moved quietly through hallways. Guards stood at attention with unusual seriousness. Advisors rushed between chambers carrying reports, records, and ancient books. The entire kingdom seemed obsessed with one mystery. A woman hidden by history. A woman chosen centuries ago. A woman whose existence threatened to change everything. And in the center of the storm sat the Alpha King. Alone. Silent. Watching the ancient contract resting across a stone table. The night had passed. He had not slept. Not even for a moment. For 400 years, he had trusted certainty. Now uncertainty surrounded him from every direction. The contract looked ordinary. A piece of faded parchment. Ancient ink. Ancient symbols. Ancient promises. Yet every time his eyes moved across the woman's name, the wolf inside him reacted. Not with aggression. Not with confusion. With recognition. The beast knew her. Or at least knew something about her. That should have been impossible. The Alpha King had no memory of signing such an agreement. No memory of meeting such a woman. No memory of making any choice at all. And yet the evidence sat directly in front of him. Real. Undeniable. Dangerous. A knock echoed against the chamber doors. The king didn't answer. The doors opened anyway. His chief advisor entered. The older man looked exhausted. Dark circles sat beneath his eyes. Clearly, he hadn't slept either. Your Majesty. The king remained silent. The advisor carefully approached. The council has gathered. Still silence. The nobles are demanding answers. That finally earned a response. They want answers. The king's voice was calm. Cold. Dangerously calm. The advisor hesitated. Most believe the contract is a forgery. The wolf growled instantly. The reaction startled both men. The king slowly stood. His silver eyes hardened. No. The advisor lowered his head. Then they fear something worse. The king already knew. Power. The nobles feared losing power. For generations they had planned for this moment. Prepared daughters. Built alliances. Created political strategies. Now a forgotten woman threatened all of it. A woman with no family name. No political value. No known existence. The contract represented chaos. And powerful people hated chaos. The king turned toward the window. Storm clouds covered the horizon. The same storm that had begun the previous night still lingered. Heavy. Restless. Waiting. Just like the wolf. What have the historians discovered? The advisor inhaled deeply. Very little. The king's expression darkened. Explain. The records connected to the contract appear to have been deliberately erased. Silence. Then another growl from the wolf. Low. Threatening. The advisor swallowed nervously. Entire sections of royal history are missing. The king slowly turned. Missing. Royal archives were among the most protected locations in the kingdom. Losing a few records was possible. Losing entire chapters of history was not. Unless someone wanted them hidden. The realization settled heavily in the room. Someone had buried the truth. Someone powerful. Someone afraid. The king's eyes narrowed. For 400 years. The advisor nodded. Yes. The answer created more questions. Not fewer. Who could maintain a secret that long? Why would they? And what exactly had they been hiding? The wolf paced inside him, growing increasingly restless. The beast wanted answers. The king did too. For the first time in centuries, both of them wanted the same thing. Far away from the palace. Far beyond royal walls and noble politics. A young woman named Lyra carried water from a mountain stream. The morning felt ordinary. Or at least it should have. Yet something felt wrong. Ever since waking from the strange dream the night before, a strange sensation lingered inside her chest. A pull. A pressure. A feeling she couldn't explain. She tried ignoring it. Tried focusing on daily life. But the feeling remained. Following her. Watching her. Waiting. Lyra lived in a small village hidden near the northern forests. Few people visited. Few people stayed. Life was simple there. Predictable. Safe. Exactly how she liked it. She had spent most of her life avoiding attention. Avoiding trouble. Avoiding questions about her family. Especially questions about her family. Because she never had answers. Her parents had died when she was young. The villagers raised her. Protected her. Loved her. Yet one mystery had always remained. Nobody knew where she truly came from. Not even Lyra. The village elder had found her as an infant. wrapped in an old blanket. Alone. Abandoned. That was all anyone knew. The questions never bothered her before. Now they did. The dream had changed something. Silver eyes. Ancient wolves. A distant voice. Every image remained trapped inside her thoughts. The more she remembered, the stranger she felt. A sudden sharp pain shot through her wrist. Lyra gasped. The water bucket slipped from her hands. Cold water spilled across the ground. She stared at her arm. A faint silver symbol briefly appeared beneath her skin. Then vanished. Her heart froze. The symbol couldn't have been real. Could it? She rubbed her wrist. Nothing remained. No mark. No evidence. Yet she knew what she had seen. Fear settled in her stomach. Something was happening. Something she didn't understand. Back inside the royal palace, the Alpha King descended into the oldest section of the royal archives. Few people ever entered these halls. Even fewer knew they existed. Ancient stone corridors stretched beneath the palace. Dust-covered forgotten shelves. Centuries of knowledge rested within darkness. The air smelled of age. Secrets. Memory. The king walked beside several historians carrying lanterns. Nobody spoke. The silence felt heavy. Every step brought them deeper into forgotten history. Finally, they reached a sealed chamber. Massive iron doors blocked the entrance. Ancient symbols covered the surface. The oldest historian stepped forward. This room has remained closed for 300 years. The king frowned. Why? The old man hesitated. We don't know. That answer irritated him. More missing history. More missing answers. The doors slowly opened. Dust exploded into the air. The room beyond appeared untouched. Shelves lined every wall. Thousands of records filled the space. Ancient scrolls. Ancient books. Ancient truths. Hidden. Forgotten. Waiting. The historians immediately began searching. Hours passed. The king remained. Watching. Waiting. Listening to the wolf. Then suddenly, one historian froze. His hands trembled. I found something. Everyone turned. The old man carefully opened a damaged journal. Its pages looked fragile. Ancient. Dangerously important. What is it? The historian swallowed. This journal belonged to a royal guardian. The king's attention sharpened instantly. Royal guardians served directly beside Alpha Kings. Their records were among the most reliable historical sources. The old man began reading. The room fell silent. The wolf has chosen. The words echoed through the chamber. Every historian froze. The king's heart stopped. The wolf surged forward. The historian continued. The chosen bloodline must be protected. Silence. Absolute silence. The king stepped closer. What bloodline? The old man turned another page. Then his face lost all color. The journal had been damaged. Entire sections were missing. Torn away. Destroyed. Only fragments remained. But one sentence survived. One sentence that changed everything. The child must never be found. The room erupted with confusion. The king stared at the page. The child. Not the woman. The child. Someone had hidden an entire bloodline. A bloodline connected to the contract. Connected to the wolf. Connected to destiny itself. The wolf released a deep growl. Protective. Possessive. Almost desperate. For the first time, fear touched the king's heart. Not fear for himself. Fear for someone he had never met. Somewhere beyond the palace. Beyond the kingdom's political games. A woman connected to this mystery was alive. And powerful people had spent centuries ensuring she remained hidden. Why? The answer terrified him. Because people only buried truths when they feared them. And whatever secret surrounded the contract, someone feared it enough to erase history itself. As night fell, the storm finally arrived. Thunder shook the kingdom. Rain battered rooftops. Lightning illuminated dark forests. And in a small northern village, Lyra stood alone outside her home. She couldn't sleep. The strange feeling inside her chest had become stronger. Almost painful. The wind howled through the trees. Branches swayed violently. The entire forest seemed restless. Watching. Waiting. Then she heard it. A distant howl. Not from a normal wolf. Something deeper. Older. Ancient. The sound echoed across the mountains. Lyra's entire body froze. The howl felt familiar. Impossible. Yet familiar. Another howl followed. Then another. Closer. Her pulse accelerated. The strange silver mark flashed briefly beneath her skin again. This time brighter. Longer. The pain nearly dropped her to her knees. What is happening to me? The question vanished into the storm. No answer came. Only thunder. Only wind. Only the growing feeling that her life was about to change forever. At that exact moment, hundreds of miles away, the Alpha King suddenly rose from his chair. The wolf exploded with energy. The force shocked everyone nearby. Advisors rushed forward. Guards reached for weapons. The king ignored them. His gaze locked onto the northern horizon. The wolf knew. Somehow the beast knew. She was there. Alive. The feeling hit him with overwhelming certainty. Not proof. Not logic. Instinct. Ancient. Powerful. Unshakable. The chosen woman still lived. And for the first time in 400 years, the wolf had found her. The king slowly stepped toward the window. Lightning flashed across distant clouds. The beast inside him remained completely focused. Watching the north. Watching her. Waiting. The king's expression darkened. The mystery was no longer about the past. It was about the present. And somewhere beyond the storm, a woman who knew nothing about contracts, wolves, prophecies, or kings had just become the center of a secret powerful enough to shake an entire kingdom. The search was no longer optional. It had begun. And neither destiny nor history intended to stop it. The storm lasted for 3 days. 3 long days of relentless rain. 3 days of thunder rolling across the kingdom like the growl of some ancient beast waking from centuries of sleep. And during those 3 days, the Alpha King's world continued unraveling. Every answer uncovered another mystery. Every clue revealed another lie. Every step toward the truth made the danger surrounding it feel larger. Much larger. By the 4th morning, the palace no longer felt like a place of power. It felt like the center of an approaching disaster. The council chambers were filled with arguments. Noble families accused one another of hiding information. Old alliances cracked beneath growing suspicion. Rumors spread faster than facts. Some believed the mysterious woman was a lost princess. Others believed she was part of an ancient prophecy. A few whispered something far more dangerous. They believed she was the rightful ruler. The mere suggestion terrified the nobility. Because power was never surrendered willingly. The Alpha King stood beside a massive window overlooking the capital. The city below appeared peaceful. Markets opened. Children played. Merchants negotiated prices. Ordinary people continued their lives completely unaware of the storm gathering around them. Yet the king knew the truth. The kingdom sat upon a fault line. And if the hidden history surrounding the contract was exposed, everything could break apart. His gaze drifted toward the north. Again. Always the north. The wolf had become obsessed. Every instinct pointed in the same direction. Every emotion pointed toward the same unseen destination. She was there. Somewhere. The chosen woman. The mystery woman. The one connected to 4 centuries of silence. The one connected to a contract even he couldn't remember signing. The wolf paced restlessly inside him. Not angry. Not impatient. Focused. The beast behaved like a hunter tracking a distant scent. Certain. Determined. Unwavering. A knock interrupted his thoughts. His chief advisor entered carrying several scrolls. The older man looked worse every day. The entire kingdom seemed exhausted by the mystery. We found more records. The king's eyes narrowed. Relevant. The advisor nodded. Very. The king immediately turned. For weeks they had searched archives. Most discoveries led nowhere. But something in the advisor's expression felt different. Hope and fear. A dangerous combination. The scrolls were placed across a stone table. Ancient maps. Old census records. Family histories. The advisor pointed toward a particular section. The bloodline survived. Silence filled the room. The king stared. What bloodline? The one mentioned in the Guardian's journal. The king's pulse quickened. The advisor continued. Someone spent centuries hiding them. The room became very still. The king studied the documents carefully. Names appeared throughout history. Different generations. Different locations. Different identities. Yet one pattern remained constant. They were always moved. Always relocated. Always erased before anyone noticed. Like shadows. Like ghosts. Like people running from something. Or being hidden from something. The realization settled heavily inside him. An entire bloodline had disappeared from history without actually disappearing. Someone had protected them. Protected them for 400 years. Why? The answer felt dangerously close. Yet still out of reach. The wolf growled softly. The king looked down at the final page. A name appeared. The most recent known descendant. A woman. Living somewhere near the Northern Territories. His heart stopped. The North. Again. Always the North. The wolf surged forward instantly. The reaction was so powerful that silver energy flashed through the room. The advisor stepped backward. Fear crossed his face. Not because of the power. Because of what the reaction meant. The beast recognized the name. The king's voice became barely a whisper. Lyra. The wolf roared inside him. The certainty was immediate. Overwhelming. Absolute. Every instinct screamed the same truth. They had found her. Far away in the northern village, Lyra sat beside a fireplace. Rain tapped softly against the windows. The storm had weakened. But the strange events had not. If anything, they were becoming worse. Much worse. The silver mark appeared almost every day now. Sometimes on her wrist. Sometimes near her shoulder. Sometimes across her palm. Each appearance lasted only seconds. Then vanished. Leaving behind confusion. Fear. And questions nobody could answer. The village healer couldn't explain it. The elder couldn't explain it. Nobody could. And now something else had started happening. Dreams. Not ordinary dreams. Memories. Or at least they felt like memories. Every night she saw fragments. A silver throne. Ancient wolves. A glowing contract. A man standing beneath moonlight. She never saw his face clearly. Only his eyes. Silver. Powerful. Sad. Unbelievably sad. The emotion haunted her. Who was he? Why did he appear in every dream? Why did his loneliness feel so familiar? The questions followed her everywhere. And every night the dreams became clearer. As if something was slowly awakening. Waiting. Remembering. That evening, while returning from the market, Lyra noticed something unusual. People were watching her. Strangers. Not villagers. Travelers. At least that's what they appeared to be. 3 men. Standing near the village entrance. Observing. Their eyes followed her movements. A chill ran down her spine. The feeling arrived instantly. Danger. She couldn't explain why. But every instinct screamed the same warning. Leave. Now. Lyra lowered her gaze and continued walking. The men remained still. Watching. Waiting. The moment she disappeared around a corner, they began moving. Following. Fear tightened inside her chest. She increased her pace. So did they. The village suddenly felt much smaller. Much quieter. Much less safe. The strange sensation growing inside her became almost painful. The silver mark flashed beneath her skin. Brighter than ever before. A pulse of energy spread through her body. The men stopped instantly. Their expressions changed. Shock. Recognition. Fear. One of them whispered something she couldn't hear. Then all 3 turned around and disappeared into the rain. Just like that. Gone. Lyra stood frozen. Her breathing shaky, heart racing. Nothing about the encounter felt normal. Nothing. And deep down she knew one thing. The strangers hadn't been looking for a random village girl. They had been looking for her. Back in the capital, the Alpha King prepared to leave. The decision shocked everyone. Kings did not abandon their palace. Especially during political crises. Especially when tensions were already rising. But he no longer cared about politics. Not this time. The mystery had become personal. The wolf refused to wait. Every day apart felt wrong. Every hour felt wrong. The bond between them strengthened despite never meeting. The connection made no sense. Yet it continued growing. The king's advisors protested. The council protested. The nobles practically panicked. None of it mattered. For centuries he had placed duty above everything. Duty above happiness. Duty above hope. Duty above himself. And where had it led? 400 years of emptiness. 400 years of loneliness. 400 years of silence. The wolf had finally given him a direction. A purpose. A reason. He wasn't turning away now. Not when answers were finally within reach. Not when destiny itself seemed to be calling. Yet while the king prepared for his journey, others were moving as well. Powerful people. Dangerous people. People who had spent generations protecting the secret. The contract's discovery had awakened forces hidden in darkness. Old families. Ancient organizations. Keepers of forbidden truths. And every one of them understood something the king did not. The prophecy was real. And if Lyra reached the throne, everything would change. Deep beneath an abandoned fortress, a gathering took place. Hooded figures stood around a circular chamber. Their faces hidden. Their identities concealed. Only their fear was visible. The contract has awakened. Silence followed. The bloodline has been found. More silence. Then another voice spoke. If she reaches him, the prophecy begins. A heavy tension settled across the room. Everyone understood the consequences. Everyone understood the risk. For 400 years they had maintained control. 400 years of manipulation. 400 years of lies. Now the truth threatened to surface. One figure slowly stepped forward. What must be done? The answer arrived immediately. Stop her. The words echoed through the chamber. Cold. Merciless. Final. And far above them, completely unaware of the danger closing around her, Lyra stood outside beneath a sky filled with stars. For the first time in days, the storm had ended. The air felt calm. Peaceful. Still. Yet inside her heart, chaos continued growing. She looked toward the distant horizon. Toward lands she had never visited. Toward places she had never seen. Toward something she could somehow feel waiting for her. A strange sadness touched her chest. Then another emotion followed. Longing. The feeling made no sense. She belonged here. This village was her home. Her entire life existed here. Yet something deep inside whispered otherwise. Something ancient. Something forgotten. Something awakening. The silver mark appeared once more. Brighter than ever. Moonlight reflected across the glowing symbol. And suddenly, a vision struck her. Not a dream. Not imagination. A vision. She saw an enormous throne room. Ancient stone walls. Silver fire. A powerful man standing alone. His face finally clear. Silver eyes. The same eyes from every dream. The same eyes from every memory. The same eyes filled with centuries of loneliness. For one brief moment, their gazes met. Across impossible distance. Across fate itself. Across 400 years of hidden history. Then the vision shattered. Lyra gasped. Falling to her knees. Tears filled her eyes without explanation. Her heart hurt. As though she had just found something precious. And lost it again. Hundreds of miles away, the Alpha King stopped walking. The wolf froze. The connection pulsed between them. Stronger than ever before. He felt her. Just for a moment. A heartbeat. A breath. A feeling. Then it vanished. But it was enough. For the first time, certainty replaced doubt. She was real. Not a myth. Not a story. Not a forgotten name. She existed. And somehow, she felt him too. The king's eyes lifted toward the northern stars. The wolf stood silent beside him. Certain. Patient. Waiting. Because destiny was moving now. The search had become a race. The truth was awakening. Enemies were closing in. And neither Lyra nor the Alpha King understood how dangerous the next revelation would be. But somewhere within the forgotten pages of history, a terrible secret waited to be uncovered. A secret so powerful that entire generations had killed to keep it buried. And very soon, that secret would finally reveal itself. The journey north should have taken weeks. Instead, it felt like a lifetime. Every mile carried the Alpha King closer to the truth. And every mile made him wish he had discovered it centuries ago. The kingdom stretched endlessly beneath grey skies. Forests passed. Mountains passed. Rivers passed. Yet the feeling inside him never changed. The wolf remained focused. Determined. Protective. As though an invisible thread connected him to someone waiting far beyond the horizon. Someone he had never met. Someone he somehow could not stop thinking about. For 400 years, his heart had remained untouched. Now a woman whose face he had never seen occupied his thoughts day and night. The realization disturbed him. Because it felt impossible. Yet every instinct insisted it was true. Meanwhile, danger continued spreading across the kingdom. The discovery of the contract had become more than political gossip. It had become a crisis. Ancient secrets were surfacing. Old families were panicking. Powerful people were moving behind the scenes. And all of them were afraid. Afraid of one thing. The prophecy. The Alpha King still didn't know exactly what that prophecy was. But everywhere he looked, he found traces of it. Fragments. Warnings. Missing pages. Destroyed records. Someone had erased history so thoroughly that uncovering the truth felt like assembling a shattered mirror. One broken piece at a time. And yet the picture was finally becoming clear. Far away, Lyra's life was falling apart. The village no longer felt safe. The strangers had returned twice. Both times they disappeared before anyone could question them. Both times they watched her. Studied her. Tracked her. The villagers noticed. Fear spread quickly. People began whispering. Questions she couldn't answer followed her everywhere. Why were outsiders searching for her? Why had strange symbols appeared on her skin? Why were animals behaving differently around her? Even the wolves of the northern forest had changed. They watched her from a distance. Never attacking. Never approaching. Simply watching. Waiting. Almost as though they recognized her. The feeling unsettled everyone. Especially Lyra. Because deep down she was beginning to suspect the truth. Whatever was happening, it wasn't random. It was connected to her. Connected to the dreams. Connected to the silver-eyed man. Connected to something hidden inside her past. One night, unable to endure the uncertainty any longer, she visited the village elder. The old man lived alone at the edge of the settlement. His small home overlooked the forest. For years he had served as her closest connection to the mystery of her childhood. And for years he had always given the same answer. He didn't know anything. Tonight felt different. The moment Lyra entered, she sensed it. The old man's expression changed. Not surprise. Not confusion. Guilt. Her heart sank immediately. You know something. The elder looked away. Silence filled the room. The fire crackled softly. Rain tapped against the windows. And for the first time in her life, the old man couldn't meet her eyes. Tell me. His shoulders slumped. The weight of decades settled visibly upon him. Slowly, painfully, he nodded. I always knew this day would come. Fear tightened inside her chest. What day? The old man's voice trembled. The day they found you. Everything stopped. The room. The air. Her heart beat. The entire world seemed to freeze. They found me. The elder closed his eyes. When I discovered you as a baby, you weren't alone. Lyra stared. The words barely made sense. What do you mean? The old man stood, crossed the room, opened a hidden compartment beneath the floor. For a long moment he simply stared at something inside. Then he removed a small wooden box. Ancient. Worn. Protected. His hands shook. I promised I would never show this to anyone. Lyra's pulse accelerated. The elder slowly opened the box. Inside rested a silver pendant. The instant she saw it, something inside her awakened. The symbol engraved upon its surface matched the glowing marks that had appeared on her skin. Exactly. Her breath caught. What is it? The elder looked at her sadly. It was wrapped around your neck when I found you. The room suddenly felt smaller. Harder to breathe in. Harder to think in. Every question she had ever carried exploded inside her mind. Who am I? Where did I come from? Why was I abandoned? The elder's eyes filled with regret. You weren't abandoned. The words hit harder than any weapon. What? His voice cracked. You were hidden. Silence. Absolute silence. Lyra stared at him. Unable to move. Unable to breathe. Unable to understand. The elder lowered his head. Someone brought you here during the middle of the night. Tears appeared in his eyes. They begged me to protect you. The room spun. Her entire life suddenly felt unreal. The elder continued. They said terrible people were searching for you. Fear spread through her body. They said if anyone discovered your identity. His voice broke completely. You would die. Far away, in an abandoned fortress hidden deep within the mountains, another secret was finally uncovered. The Alpha King stood inside a forgotten chamber. Dust covered everything. Ancient symbols lined the walls. Time itself seemed frozen. The room had remained sealed for centuries. No one had entered. No one had left. At the center stood a stone altar. And upon that altar rested the final piece of the puzzle. An untouched journal. The personal journal of a former royal guardian. The same guardian whose fragmented records had first revealed the hidden bloodline. The king opened it carefully. The pages remained intact. For the first time, there were no missing sections. No torn pages. No erased history. Only truth. The guardian's words filled the pages. And with every sentence, the king's world changed. 400 years ago, the kingdom faced destruction. Not from war. Not from enemies. From within. A civil conflict had nearly shattered the royal bloodline. Greed. Fear. Ambition. Powerful families fought for control. The kingdom stood on the edge of collapse. Then a prophecy emerged. An ancient prophecy older than the throne itself. One that spoke of a future union. A future Alpha King. A future bloodline. A future woman. Together, they would restore balance to the kingdom. Together, they would end centuries of corruption. Together, they would expose hidden darkness. The prophecy terrified the ruling families. Because it threatened their power. The journal described what happened next. The chosen bloodline was targeted. Hunted. Erased. Entire families disappeared. Records vanished. Witnesses died. History was rewritten. The prophecy itself was buried. But one thing survived. The contract. The wolf's choice. The Alpha King's hands tightened around the journal. His pulse pounded. The final pages waited. The truth he had searched for. The truth everyone feared. Slowly, he turned the page. And found it. The final revelation. The chosen woman wasn't meant to become queen. She was meant to become something greater. Much greater. The prophecy described her as the keeper of balance. A woman carrying an ancient power connected directly to the origins of the wolves themselves. The king's breath stopped. The journal continued. The wolf had chosen her bloodline long before either of them were born. Long before the current king existed. Long before Lyra existed. The choice wasn't about politics. It wasn't about love. It wasn't even about the throne. It was about survival. Without the union, the kingdom would eventually fall. The king's hands trembled. For centuries he believed he ruled the kingdom. Now he realized something terrifying. The kingdom's future had never belonged to him. It had belonged to fate. And fate had been waiting 400 years. The wolf inside him became completely silent. Not restless. Not emotional. Silent. As though the beast finally understood everything. The realization hit the king like a storm. The contract wasn't merely a promise. It was a safeguard. A final protection created long ago. And if the prophecy was true, someone would do anything to stop it. Anything. The truth reached Lyra on the same night. The elder revealed everything he knew. Not much. But enough. The people who hid her had carried the same symbol. The same pendant. The same silver markings. They were terrified. Desperate. Running. One woman in particular had refused to leave until Lyra was safe. The elder still remembered her face. Still remembered her tears. Still remembered her final words. Protect her until destiny finds her. Lyra sat frozen. The sentence echoed endlessly through her mind. Destiny. The same word that had haunted her dreams. The same word connected to the silver-eyed man. The same word she never wanted to hear again. Because destiny sounded frightening. Destiny sounded dangerous. Destiny sounded like losing control. And deep down she knew something terrible. Destiny had already found her. That night she dreamed again. But this time the dream wasn't fragmented. It wasn't incomplete. It was clear. Perfectly clear. She stood inside a massive throne room. Silver fire burned around her. Ancient wolves watched from the shadows. And before her stood the man from every dream. The Alpha King. Neither spoke. Neither moved. Yet emotion filled the space between them. Loneliness. Loss. Pain. Hope. Centuries of loneliness reflected inside his eyes. And for the first time, Lyra understood something. He was searching for her. The realization shattered her heart. Because she was searching for him too. Hundreds of miles away, the king experienced the same dream. The same room. The same silence. The same connection. And when he woke, one terrifying truth remained. The bond was real. Not prophecy. Not imagination. Real. The wolf had never been waiting for 400 years. The wolf had been waiting for her. Only her. No one else. Never anyone else. For the first time since becoming king, fear truly entered his heart. Not fear of losing power. Not fear of enemies. Fear of losing her before he found her. Because now he understood the truth. The people who buried history weren't finished. They were moving. Preparing. Hunting. And Lyra was in danger. The same realization struck another group that very night. The hidden organization protecting the secret received confirmation. The king knew the prophecy. The bloodline had awakened. The final stage had begun. Panic spread through their ranks. For 400 years they had controlled the future. Now control was slipping away. One leader finally spoke the words everyone feared. If the king reaches her first. Silence followed. Then another voice finished the sentence. Everything ends. Orders were given immediately. Hunters were dispatched. Plans were activated. The hidden war that had remained invisible for centuries was finally beginning. And neither Lyra nor the Alpha King had any idea how close danger truly was. By dawn, both stood beneath different skies. Separated by distance. Connected by destiny. Each carrying the same impossible choice. Continue running from the truth. Or embrace it. No matter the cost. And somewhere beyond mountains, forests, and forgotten history, the future waited. Demanding an answer. The future arrived beneath a blood-red moon. For 400 years, destiny had waited. For 400 years, history had hidden the truth. For 400 years, powerful families had manipulated kingdoms, erased records, and buried entire bloodlines beneath layers of lies. Now there was nowhere left to hide. The prophecy was awake. The contract was awake. And the woman at the center of everything had finally learned the truth. Lyra stood alone on a cliff overlooking the northern forest. The wind pulled at her hair. The silver pendant hung against her chest. The same pendant that had waited her entire life for this moment. Below her, wolves moved through the darkness. Dozens of them. Silent. Watching. Protecting. The sight should have frightened her. Instead, it felt strangely familiar. Like coming home to a place she had never visited. The silver mark glowed brightly across her wrist. Brighter than it ever had before. The power beneath her skin felt alive. Awake. Ancient. For days she had fought the truth. Denied it. Questioned it. Feared it. But fear could no longer change reality. The dreams were real. The contract was real. The prophecy was real. And somewhere beyond the mountains, a king was risking everything to find her. A man she had never met. A man she somehow trusted. A man whose loneliness she felt as deeply as her own. The thought made her chest ache. Because for the first time she understood something important. The prophecy wasn't controlling her. It wasn't forcing her. It was giving her a choice. A choice nobody else could make. Far to the south, the Alpha King rode through the night. His guards struggled to keep pace. The wolf inside him had become impossible to ignore. Every instinct pointed toward the north. Toward Lyra. Toward destiny. For centuries he had rejected fate. Rejected hope. Rejected emotional connection. Now he realized why. Because his wolf had never been waiting for a mate. His wolf had been waiting for her. Only her. The realization changed everything. Not because of romance. Not because of prophecy. Because for the first time in 400 years, he wanted something for himself. Not for the kingdom. Not for duty. Not for politics. For himself. The feeling terrified him. Because wanting something meant risking loss. And loss was the one thing he understood better than anyone. The king looked toward the stars. The same stars hanging above Lyra. The same stars watching destiny unfold. His wolf suddenly became alert. Danger. The warning exploded through his mind. Instantly. Violently. The king pulled his horse to a stop. Every guard froze. The wolf snarled. Not in anger. In fear. For her. The king felt it immediately. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. At that exact moment, hidden figures emerged from the northern forest. They surrounded Lyra without warning. Dozens of them. Armed. Silent. Deadly. The hunters had arrived. For centuries their organization had existed for one purpose. Prevent the prophecy. Destroy the bloodline. Protect their power. And now the final descendant stood before them. The leader stepped forward. His eyes fixed on the glowing mark on Lyra's wrist. Hatred filled his expression. You should never have been found. The words sent chills through the air. Lyra's heart pounded. Fear rushed through her body. Yet something deeper stirred beneath it. Something ancient. Something powerful. The silver mark flared brighter. The hunters immediately tensed. One step closer. Another. Another. The circle tightened. For the first time, Lyra truly understood the danger surrounding her. This wasn't politics. This wasn't misunderstanding. These people wanted her dead. The realization should have broken her. Instead, it awakened something. For her entire life she had run from questions. Run from uncertainty. Run from her own identity. Not anymore. The leader raised his weapon. The hunters prepared to strike. Then the forest exploded with howls. Ancient. Powerful. Terrifying. Every hunter froze. The wolves emerged from the darkness. Hundreds. Not ordinary wolves. Royal wolves. Guardians of the old bloodlines. The creatures surrounded Lyra instantly. Protective. Loyal. Ready. The hunters stepped backward. Fear flashed across their faces. For centuries these wolves had remained hidden. Now they had chosen a side. And it wasn't theirs. The battle that followed wasn't fought with armies. It was fought with truth. The hunters realized something terrifying. The prophecy had already begun. Stopping it was no longer possible. The old balance was shifting. The world was changing. And destiny had finally chosen its path. By dawn, the hunters had retreated. Their centuries of control shattered. Their secrets exposed. their power fading. But the victory came with a cost. Lyra stood exhausted at the forest's edge. The silver mark burned painfully. The pendant glowed brighter than ever. And deep inside, she felt something changing. Something awakening completely. Then she heard it. Horse hooves. Approaching rapidly. Her heart immediately knew. Before her eyes confirmed it. The Alpha King emerged from the morning mist. For a long moment neither moved. Neither spoke. The world seemed to stop. 400 years. 4 centuries of waiting. 4 centuries of searching. 4 centuries of hidden destiny. Leading to one moment. One meeting. One choice. The king slowly dismounted. His silver eyes locked onto hers. The same eyes from every dream. The same eyes she had seen 1,000 times while sleeping. Except now they were real. The connection struck both of them instantly. Powerful. Overwhelming. Unavoidable. Not because magic demanded it. Because something inside both of them recognized the other. The wolf became completely still. For the first time in 400 years. Still. Peaceful. Home. The king understood immediately. His endless searching was over. Lyra felt tears gather unexpectedly. Not sadness. Relief. A relief so deep it hurt. Neither needed explanations. Neither needed proof. The journey itself had already provided those. For a moment, the entire kingdom seemed very far away. The politics. The conspiracies. The prophecy. All of it faded. Leaving only 2 people who had spent their lives feeling incomplete. Finally standing together. But destiny wasn't finished. Not yet. Because the final truth still remained hidden. Days later, they returned to the capital together. The kingdom erupted. Crowds filled the streets. Rumors became reality. The mysterious woman existed. The contract existed. The prophecy existed. And now everyone could see it. The nobles panicked. Some demanded resistance. Others demanded compromise. Most simply feared losing power. The Alpha King listened. Then did something nobody expected. He opened the royal archives. Every hidden record. Every buried truth. Every erased page. Everything. The entire kingdom learned what had happened 400 years earlier. The betrayals. The murders. The lies. The manipulation. Generations of deception collapsed overnight. Families built upon corruption lost influence. Ancient conspiracies fell apart. The truth spread faster than fear. And once people saw it, they refused to look away. The old system began crumbling. Not through violence. Through exposure. The thing powerful people feared most. Truth. For weeks the kingdom transformed. Slowly. Painfully. Honestly. The Alpha King watched it happen beside Lyra. And for the first time in centuries, he no longer carried the burden alone. That changed him more than anything. The lonely ruler who trusted only duty began learning trust. Learning hope. Learning connection. Learning that leadership didn't require isolation. Meanwhile, Lyra discovered her own strength. She was never meant to become a queen because of status. She was never chosen because of politics. She was chosen because she represented balance. Compassion. Humanity. The qualities the kingdom had lost. Together they became something unexpected. Not rulers bound by destiny. Partners who chose destiny willingly. That choice mattered. Because fate had opened the door. But they walked through it themselves. Months later, beneath a silver moon, the ancient contract was finally completed. Not through ceremony. Not through politics. Not through obligation. Through acceptance. The wolf accepted. The king accepted. Lyra accepted. And for the first time in 400 years, peace settled across the bond. The kingdom celebrated. Hope returned. The future felt possible again. Yet even then, destiny held one final secret. One final mystery. One final question. Late one evening, Lyra wandered through the royal archives. Most of the hidden records had already been examined. Most secrets had already been revealed. Then she discovered something strange. A sealed compartment hidden behind a stone wall. Ancient. Forgotten. Waiting. Inside rested a single document. Older than the contract itself. Older than the prophecy. Older than the kingdom. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The page contained only one sentence. One sentence written in ancient silver ink. A sentence that instantly stole the breath from her lungs. The first contract was never the final contract. Silence filled the room. Her heart pounded. Confusion spread through her thoughts. First contract. What did that mean? Slowly she looked toward another symbol at the bottom of the page. A symbol she had never seen before. A symbol connected to something older. Something buried even deeper. Something waiting beyond history. Footsteps echoed behind her. The Alpha King entered. His expression changed the moment he saw the document. The wolf stirred. Not with fear. Not with anger. With recognition. Lyra slowly lifted her eyes. The king stared at the symbol. Then at her. Neither spoke. Neither needed to. Because both understood the same thing. The story they thought had ended. Had only revealed its first chapter. Outside, the kingdom slept peacefully. Unaware. The moon shone above ancient mountains. The wolves watched from distant forests. And somewhere beyond forgotten history, another secret waited. Patient. Silent. Ready. Waiting for destiny to awaken it.